This week on Mitch and Ed's Excellent Adventure.
It's a bird.
It's a plane.
It's Superman
the movie. Hi, this is Ed Dollister.
And Mitch Halleck.
And you're on Mitch and Ed's Excellent Adventure. Thanks for joining us. Before we begin, a big thank you to our new subscribers. If you are enjoying the show and haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button below, and then you'll be alerted to our new episodes and everything like that. And we'd love to have you along. Yep, go for it, Mitch.
I was going to say, if you've been watching us, the 100 viewer challenge was accepted by Ed, and he did consume a 12-year-old box of Indiana Jones cereal.
In fact, I think it's still. I think I'm still feeling the effects of it, to be honest.
Oh, I didn't think you were going to make it on that one, but you did, and you survived. And maybe it's because we're about to talk about one of our favorite movies of all time. Let me put on my Clark Kent glasses here.
Oh, Mitch, where did Mitch go?
Oh,
where are you?
Hi, Ed. How are you?
Oh. Hey, Smallville. How you doing?
I'm all right there. Look, it's Superman the movie, Ed.
That's right.
1978?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Came out in December of 1978 and was, I would say, the gold standard for comic book movies. And I think every comic book movie today has owes some of its success to that fantastic Richard Donner movie.
Yeah, I was going to say, I just wanted to double check with you because we've had some controversy before about openings. Here, for months, and I think it seemed like months, there was just hints of the Superman movie, and all you saw was pretty much that poster you have behind you. But over here, it was a little different. It was the Superman logo. And in my end, they had red, yellow, and blue and a bunch of clouds, and it just said, "You'll Believe a Man Can Fly, Christmas 1978," because it did open here, if I remember my memory, 1978 Christmas Day, I think, was the opening. Was it Christmas at your end or just December?
It certainly was. Look, I remember it being a Christmas release here in Australia in 1978. It might have been maybe early 1979, but I do remember it,
it was
around
within that week or so. Yeah,
around Christmas. And I suppose it was a groundbreaking film in that it really was the first. Look, there had been superhero movies up to that point. I suppose if you talk about the old serials, there was Superman. And things like that. Superman and the Mole Man. There was the Batman. 1966 and things like that.
Yeah, there was I'm trying to think, the only really big, there was Tarzan movies, there was Flash Gordon, but there was nothing at this level of a classic superhero.
No, this was a big budget. Traditionally those films were cheap, cheap and nasty, I suppose, but this was a very expensive movie for the time. It cost $55 million. It was written by, the original script was written by Mario Puzo, who wrote The Godfather. They had Marlon Brando attached to it very early on to get that traction. You had Gene Hackman, who was, off French Connection 2 and all those. Richard Donner had just come off, the director had just come off The Omen, which was a huge success. They were putting a lot of money into this, and that's not normally a superhero film of those days. It's not like today where every other film is, 60 to, if you look at the Avengers, a $200 million, movie.
No, and the Sauckland the Sauckland family, not brothers, but they had much success with those Three Musketeer pictures, and then there was a sequel, The Four Musketeers, which were like a comedic version of the classic story. And they didn't know anything about the stories I've heard. And you can actually, our friend Joe Stuber does a podcast called the Comic Book Central, and he did an interview with Alexander Sauckland, And what it was is, I believe they picked up a comic book. I think he went to his father and said, you know, our next movie is going to be this, you know, Superman. And they didn't know what Superman was. Everybody knew of the character because he'd been around for 50 years almost at that point. So everybody had an idea what Superman is. But like you said, other than the George Reeves TV show from the 50s, and then some cartoons, and then a serial here and there with Kirk Allen in a radio show, nobody ever attempted such a big spectacle. There was a Broadway show.
Yes.
You know, It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman.
Yes.
Yeah, and like I said, there was TV shows, there was the Super Friends cartoons. Every kid in the world knew who Superman was. But the idea that you're going to go to a movie theater and see, now we take it for granted, but the whole idea of a guy flying on the screen, you're talking Peter Pan stuff. You're talking, you know, people on wires.
Or just standing up like this, and then just the projection, you know.
The green behind them, you know. It wasn't looked at. It was like, oh, look.
There goes our budget, Mitch. Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. But that, honestly, what we do here was not far from what they did before. Like, if you watch those old Superman TV shows, he's just laying on a board with a blue screen behind him when they went to color, and they just did projection, and that's all there was to it. So,
well, I know they, I was reading as well, they did end up spending $2 million on flying tests, which they felt originally it was going to be, I mean, it was a whole different film when it first started. They had Marlon Brando attached. They had a number of directors before Richard Donner. They had Guy Hamilton, who had directed a lot of the Bond films. Yeah. They were going to film it in Italy, but there were problems with, you know, a lot of tax exiles on the production team. So Guy Hamilton couldn't do it. Marlon Brando wasn't able to film in Italy because of his Last Tango in Paris movie.
Oh, that's right.
An obscene film. So he was under, you know, like had a warrant for his arrest essentially for that. So it all, look, you know, they were looking for directors. They were going to offer it to Steven Spielberg, but they didn't. Jaws had come out at this stage of their production, and they didn't know whether that was going to be a success. Which obviously it was a huge success and started the blockbuster movie phenomenon. Right. And they settled on Richard Donner. Richard Donner, we know, I suppose, obviously from Superman, but also years later from The Goonies, the Lethal Weapon series, Lady Hawk. He's a very good director.
Yeah, but a lot of TV shows I grew up watching, you would see the name Richard Donner or Dick Donner on them. We're talking shows like Gilligan's Island. And, you know, I think even maybe some Brady Bunches. He grew up, or he started his career doing a lot of TV shows here in the States. And so, like you said, he got his feet wet. He was very good at producing or directing a very quick, on time, on schedule, on budget type of director. He wasn't going to take your budget and go crazy with it. So, they made a great choice with Richard Donner. But like you said, if you didn't believe a man can fly, which is the tagline that becomes part of the movie marketing, it wasn't going to work. I mean, no matter what, no matter who they put in that suit before that, if the special effects didn't come off just right, it wasn't going to work. And when we talk about special effects team, we also talk about a lot of the folks that did their work on the James Bond movies. They filmed it over, I'm going to say, you can correct me if I'm wrong, did they use the 007 stage?
It was at Shepperton. I think that I had a feel. I know they used Shepperton. I have a feeling they used both.
It was
because it was such a big production.
Plus, they did do some site locations here in New York, some actual filming at the Daily News.
Well, I'll get to that in a second, actually. But before that, the original script by Mario Puzo was 550 pages long.
Oh, it was crazy.
And they decided to do it, film Superman 1 and 2 back to back, which was sort of unheard of. They did that with The Three Musketeers, again, an Ilya and Alexander Sorkin production. So they were sort of going into known territory.
I think, didn't they get in trouble for doing that though? Because
they didn't tell the actors they were doing two movies.
Yeah, they were filming all this thinking they're getting one paycheck, but they're actually making two movies. So yeah, okay, I did hear that there was some scuttlebutt about how they went about producing these films. And
and they just So I was just going to say that so they decided to do that, but with Mario Puzo's original script, it just was all reports, it was a very good script, but it was just unfilmable. So they brought in the Newmans, Leslie and David Newman, to I suppose have another go of it. And the problem was that script was too at the other end of the scale. It was very campy. There was a point where they brought in Kojak.
I
and
remember
things
that.
like that.
Now, weren't they the couple that did the Broadway show? The Newmans, weren't they? Did they work on that show too?
I've got this. I've got actually the soundtrack somewhere there. I'll have a look and
I saw it on I saw it on TV as a kid.
Yep.
They actually filmed a production. They ran it on ABC TV. And I remember watching it going, that's not Superman.
I know. It's quite different. They didn't have Lex Luthor. They had it's quite different to what we know. It's a bit more like the 1940s and 50s Superman, where he wasn't dealing with Lex Luthor or Brainiac or things like that. It was just a local thug.
Low level crime stuff. Yeah. And then I remember there was a scene where I just remember bits and pieces of it. And I remember I think he lost his powers at one point. He's on a bridge and he was going to jump in the water and kill himself or something. It was really odd. I don't know if I'm remembering it correctly, but it wasn't fun.
Okay, but it's not Superman as you know.
No, it's more Superman having a midlife crisis.
Yeah. And I suppose something that we would never know about. But anyway, that's right. So with that script, the Newman script wasn't exactly the way that Donner wanted to take it as well. So he brought in his friend Tom Mankiewicz, who basically came in and did an overall. He couldn't get a script credit on the movie. They wouldn't let him, but you'll see his name as creative consultant. Tom Mankiewicz is a brilliant writer, and that's the script that we know. And I suppose that there was a key word that Richard Donner used throughout the production called verisimilitude.
Spell that, Ed.
VERISIMULTUDE.
You didn't know there was going to be a test today.
I didn't. Verisimilitude, which basically means, keeping it real and grounded. And I think that's what works with Superman the movie. It is slightly campy, but not to the Batman, Adam West, Burt Ward extent.
No.
But it is real. You believe it is real. And it's, again, you go back to that keyword, you'll believe a man could fly. And it look, I was watching a little bit of it yesterday, Superman the movie, and the making of, actually, the 1978 making of that's on the 4K disc. And it's amazing. The flying sequences today still hold up for the most part very well. They're very clever. They had a Croatian or Yugoslav visual effects, Zoran, what's his last name?
Zoran sounds like the bad guy from View to a Kill.
A View to a Kill, I know. Anyway, he created the Zoptic process, which was a ability to front project the flying Superman on, and the camera that was filming him would also tee up with the background. So it was very believable. And they used...
It only looks a little weird a couple times. I mean, not to... But there's a couple scenes in New York when he's flying around and you'll see it left like a projection of the World Trade Center behind him. That's the only time it kind of looks a little...
But for the time, it was pretty amazing. And I think when we were in Kelly and I were in New York, we went to the news building. They let us in. I don't know why they would let us in, but it was a Sunday. They let us into the foyer, and it had
the big globe.
Yep. Yeah. It had not changed.
No. That's a piece of art. That's like historical landmark.
Yep. It was amazing.
I think did I show you, or did I tell you where, like, when he captures the cat burglar and says, Officer Mooney? It used to be the Enron building. Enron that had the big scandal with the stealing everyone's money years ago.
Yes.
But there used to be a big E there in the plaza, but that's the curved building when the guy falls and he catches him and he leaves him.
It's near what's the
library right near where the Ghostbusters were. It's off
it was right near the what's that famous hotel from there's a beautiful, is it the Plaza Hotel? Yeah, it's near there. We were walking there because it was used in Barefoot in the Park that Kelly was directing. So we wanted to have a look at that. And then I'll go, oh my gosh, I know
That's
this
the
building.
Yeah.
I know this
Yeah.
building. And it was the curved. Now, it was interesting. On the other side of the building, they had an E, but that had shifted positions.
Right.
I had a photo there. And it's great. I mean, all of New York looks like Metropolis. It essentially is Metropolis.
Yeah.
Did you know what's Metropolis known as, Mitch? Here's your quiz.
The Big Apricot.
Yep, good work. You have passed, so that's good.
You know, I happen to know a little bit about comic books. You see.
Okay, that's all right. Well, what's that? That's.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had the wrong show. I was going to say,
let's not do any cross promotion. All right.
I happen to do a big comic book convention every year here in Connecticut. It's terrific.
Yes.
But that's neither here nor there. But one of the biggest special effects. That's why I knew about that Big Apricot.
Are you saying the biggest special effects one of the is Christopher Reeve himself?
I was going to say that guy right there from Yale Drama School. Speaking of New Haven and stuff, went to school. What you call it? Robin Williams, Popeye.
Yep, they were roommates
They were
together.
roommates. Yeah, Kevin. I'm going to tell you another story for a second. Christopher Reeve, Robin Williams, and Kevin Conroy, who's the voice of Batman.
Yeah,
all together in the same class. So how weird is that? That you have a future Popeye or Mork from Mork, you have Superman, and you have Batman, the voice of Batman, all in the same theater classes and stuff. So that was the big deal. And honestly, he sells this movie. We talk about the special effects. We talk about Marlon Brando and the writing. He's the special effect.
Oh, yes.
I mean, Christopher Reeve pulls that off like nobody's business. You could see those screen tests that you talked about when you watched the making of it, and they show him when he's a lot thinner before he bulked up for the movie, and he's got these huge sweat stains under his arms because I guess they didn't have deodorant in the 70s or whatever, but he is sweating like a pig in these scenes. I don't know what's going on, but he pulls it off, and he's got the glasses, and he's, hello, Miss Lane, how are you? And he's got he stoops. It's something what he does physically, like his shoulders come up.
There's that scene where he's got his glasses and his Clark Kent, and I use this in my drama class to show how he can transform. He takes it off,
and he stands to his full 6-something height, and his chest comes up, and his voice changes. I'm like, oh my God, he literally transformed from a mild-mannered reporter into the Man of Steel right before your eyes without any lighting, without any special effects or anything like that. It was just his physical presence.
Yes.
And he pulled it off seamlessly. I mean, that's acting for you. If you could believe that guy is Superman, that's the whole magic. That's the biggest special effect in the movie.
Oh yeah.
Lois, for goodness sake, didn't you hear me knocking? Lois, we did have a date tonight, remember?
Oh.
Lois?
Huh?
You haven't been,
Oh, no.
Well, I should certainly hope not. Well, let's, push off, shall we?
I better get a coat. It might be kind of cold up. No, I mean, I need a person. I have to fix my hair and some blush on.
Lois, there's something I have to tell you. I'm really... I was, at first, really nervous about tonight. But then I decided, well...
Oh my gosh, absolutely. He was, he was the character, and you rarely see that in not even superhero movies, but any movie. You rarely see such commitment. I think today, maybe, would you say maybe Chris Evans?
I was going to get to that later. Back, he was taking a risk because, look, let me just say, back then, no one got a lot of second chances, if anything. If you screwed this up, the money was at stake. It was a big picture. It was a big budget. Everybody was waiting. Christmas release. I mean, they expected to see something huge. Warner Brothers was behind it. If this movie tanked, Christopher Reeve would be working with Clinton Spilsbury.
I was just about to bring up the Legend of the Lone Ranger.
No one never been seen again. You never would have seen Superman. He would have been.
I mean, also like he was a risk in that being unknown. They originally were looking at everybody. You know,
Robert Redford,
Robert Redford, James Caan, all these actors who I think again would not have been. You know, they would have brought a name to it, but
well, they were hoping to bring an audience, so you bank on that. You're like, well, look, if we got Gene Hackman and Marlon Brando and James Caan, these are the biggest actors of the day, people will show up. It might be a joke, it might be laughed out of the theaters, but you'll get money because it's a business, it's a show business, and investors want their money back. This isn't just for art's sake. We're not making something because it's a piece of, you know, beauty, the spirit, the lighting. It's all about the human soul. Now, at the end of the day, it's how much money's in the till. How much popcorn do they sell? They wanted to make money, and they picked this movie, 1978 Christmas, as, you know what's so funny? I was just thinking about that. Close Encounters of the Third Kind opened in Christmas of 78 as well.
77?
78.
No, was 77.
Was it 77?
Yep.
I was going to say, because I remember Christmas was a big movie time. King Kong was in Christmas 76.
Yep.
Christmas 77. Okay, maybe it was Close Encounter. I just remember Christmas was always like the biggest budget movie they had.
Yep.
Was because they knew all the families were home and they knew everybody was together. And once you opened the presents and you had the food, what else were you going to do but get everybody to go into a movie? Because the weather's not good up here at the time, too. It's winter. So people want to get out of there, get warm. So yeah, this was really one of the biggest gambles, I think, in Hollywood history.
Oh yeah, and it paid off. It wasn't the highest grossing film of 1978. The reason for that is that it was released in late December. So it only gets a couple weeks. That's right. But it was the second highest grossing behind do you know which film? Was the huge film 1978, I think.
Rocky 2.
Grease. Grease was number one.
Oh, Grease was the summer. Okay.
Yes. So Grease was number one. I think that grossed about 382 million worldwide. Superman, the movie, grossed 300 million worldwide. It was huge. It was it broke a number of box office records for Warner Brothers as well as just general box office records. It was number one at the cinema for 13 weeks in a row, which was pretty amazing. And it was not only a big hit, it was one of those rare big hits that was also well received by critics.
Now, you saw it as a kid. I saw, because my mom and dad knew each other when they were kids. They used to read Superman comic books and listen to the radio show. So there was no doubt that I was going to see this movie. I mean, I was a comic book fan, but I was a Marvel guy.
I know. I
like Spider-Man.
That's all right.
But I like Superman from the TV show. I knew, George Reeves, I'd come home after school and watch him every day. And then Adam West Batman show. But Superman to me was the Super Friends cartoon. I mean, he's great. He could do everything, but he was a little bit boring. You know what I'm saying? Because I was like, really? And when I was a kid, so we're talking 1978, so I had to be about 11 or so. Yeah, about 11 or 12. Yeah. I'm just trying to think. I don't think and don't go crazy, and you can get the wah-wah sound ready, but I wasn't in love with this movie when it first came out because I thought it was a little long.
Well, it was a long movie.
I could remember those scenes in Kansas when they were at the Kent farm, and you saw that sweeping helicopter shot with Kent with Clark as he's about to head off to find the Fortress of Solitude. It just went on forever. It was like this sweeping Gone with the Wind moment. You know what I'm talking about? When you see the wheat fields of Kansas and never forget, Clark, where you're from or something. I can't remember the line. I will, Mom. And it's like this epic saga. And I'm like, what did he do? Did he put the suit on? Because he doesn't get into Superman costume for, I'm going to say,
it's like over an hour.
Minutes? Is it an hour?
It's at least over. But what a shot when they reveal him standing at the Fortress of Solitude at the end, and then and then he flies directly towards camera and then veers off. I see. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking of that.
I know. Jeffrey East is the actor who played young Clark.
Yes.
And I never liked the fact they changed his voice. They dubbed it with Christopher Reeve. I get it. They want to keep continuity, so it sounds like him. But the ADR, is that what it's called? The
additional dialogue recording. Yes.
This didn't match up right. Like it sounded like it wasn't there on the set or whatever.
I mean, for me as a kid, I didn't
notice it.
I didn't notice it. It's like Flash Gordon. When we talk about that, I didn't know that Flash was redubbed.
Sam Jones. Yeah, that's another story. But no, I knew there was something odd about it when he's in that scene in the high school when they're kicking the football equipment and Lana Lang's there and like, hey, Clark, see you later, buddy. Yeah. And he's like, hey, Dad, all those powers, geez, I wish I could do so. It just didn't feel like it was coming out of his mouth. It just odd. You didn't catch that? Well, you were younger than me. You're like,
I was 8.
8. Yeah, well, I was more sophisticated moviegoer at 12.
I can imagine. I mean,
I caught that, and I just remembered like that when you're watching a movie and something just takes you out of it, like if somebody looked into the camera, that would freak you out because you're never supposed to look into the camera, like because you break the illusion, the fourth wall.
Yes,
that bothered me, and then the fact that, like you said, New York was Metropolis. I live over here. I live near New York and Connecticut and such. So when I see the New Haven train running over Harry the Hat, who's played by Bridgeport's own Ray Hassett, was at one of the shows we did, and he's also the stormtrooper the Hoth Rebel Trooper.
Mm-hmm.
It takes you out of it because they go, that's the New Haven train. Because as the train's coming towards them, it says NH on it, which means New Haven. Mm-hmm. So that's the train that I see every day outside my house, but it's in Metropolis. So there's little things that the average person I don't think picked up on. But to me, it was like, why is there a New Haven train in Metropolis? It's little stuff like that.
I mean,
out of it,
that shot of the opening or establishing shot of the Daily News building, which is a beautiful building, and you can see, I think it's a Chrysler building that you can see in the background. But you know what? That's okay. I just thought it was kind of cool, actually. And they filmed all over. They filmed Smallville was actually in Canada.
That's what Alberta, Canada, I believe. Right?
They filmed a lot in obviously the UK. A lot of the studio interiors and things like that. You had amazing Lex Luthor's lair below Grand Central Station. Which was an amazing.
Now, as a teacher, did you get all the what's the word I'm looking for? The imagery and all the. I had a teacher in high school, Sister Marie, when she would talk about themes and movies. She went over Superman the movie, and suddenly it became a whole new thing. And she talked about how Lex Luthor is, the bad guy. He lives underground, and there's all these metaphors for him being, the bad guy, like demonic and all this stuff. And then Superman lives above the ground and in the sky. He's the hero of the story. And I was like, whoa, what are you talking about here? This hero's journey, the whole, John Campbell. What am I thinking of? John Campbell.
Joseph Campbell.
Joseph Campbell.
Yeah.
She starts making all these allusions. Oh, this is what this means, and that's what that means. And I go, look, man, it's just a comic book story. I didn't go into it thinking it was War and Peace or any of these things. But have you ever gone back and start dissecting that movie and seen for more than just popcorn fun? I thought it was just
every film you sort of notice, I think, things on, different levels. And you can certainly, it's not, they did put a lot of obviously thought into every element of it. And I suppose that's why it's so successful. That's the problem with a lot of films, that are kids films. They just catered to kids. There's nothing there for, the parents coming along or what have you, or when you grow into it. That's why Star Wars works so well.
Is that why it still works after 40 years? Because there is more to it than just
that's probably part of it, but I think it is the performances. Christopher Reeve,
Margot
Kidder is fantastic.
Jackie Cooper.
Jackie Cooper. Mark McClure is amazing. Gene Hackman is fantastic. You've got Valerie Perrine as Miss Tessmacher. There's lots of. What's that? Sorry.
I was going to say, I have a book here somewhere. I didn't go dig it up, but it's a paperback book, and it's got The Making of Superman, the movie,
Yeah.
and you have it, don't you? Well, let me see. I don't think that's the cover I have. Mine has pictures of Marlon Brando on the cover.
Ah.
Ah.
Oh,
Wait a minute. Is there a picture of, speaking of Valerie Perrine, is there a picture of Valerie Perrine wearing a T-shirt saying, making $10,000 a day, but it's rather kind of a risque photograph?
Let me.
It's on her T-shirt. You don't have to show the picture, but I don't know if that's the same book I had. Yeah, that's it. That's the book. That's the book you have?
Yep.
That's the cover?
Yes.
Marlon Brando's not on the cover?
Nope.
Oh, I have a different edition then. I swear mine's got a picture.
I'm going to have to go on eBay then and have a look.
No, because that's why I looked at
this does say see the Australia, so it might be Australia
okay.
and New Zealand. I'll see if I can.
It might be like when you had the Indiana Jones thing. We have different covers. Yeah. But anyway, that book's a great making of. I don't know if people have read that or if I doubt it's in print because it's so old, but that was a great book because I would read all about the sets they had to build and the money that was involved. And Marlon Brando was only there for 18 days, I believe it was, for $2 million, which was like unheard of at the time for the money they paid him. And
he didn't learn his lines.
His lines they're written on the baby's rocket ship and stuff. Little baby
and cue cards. But in the making of.
Right there.
In the making of, they say, they don't, it's not a secret or anything like that. He argues that basically he feels that these were, he's saying it, he's familiar with them, but him saying it for the first time gives it a bit of a freshness. And I think, well, you know what? His performance, I know some people say it was phoned in. I think Christopher Reeve said it was phoned in a little bit.
You know what did a lot of acting for him? The wig. The wig did a lot for him. Especially when he said the word Krypton. That drives me nuts. You've endangered all our children here. Even the children of Krypton have fear for you, Ursa, and your evil thoughts. That's my Marlon Brando.
Some people...
You had that look like, what the hell's he doing? He's having a stroke. Krypton.
We shouldn't make fun of people with speech impediments. I'm not
making fun of speech impediments.
Don't you say aluminum?
Aluminum.
Manama. It's
I just did that for you. No, aluminum.
Aluminium.
Yeah, sure.
So anyway, I say potato, you say potato. So that's all right.
I say tomato. You say tomato. Tomato.
There you go. Anyway, let's just call the whole thing off.
No, let's go back on. What I was going to say is for $2 million, you think this SOB would have learned his damn lines. But
I think he was fantastic in it.
I've heard that your little hero, should we say, Mr. Johnny Depp, also kind of makes up some of his dialogue as he goes along. And I've heard Robert Downey Jr., RDJ, wears a little what they call like an earwig thing in his ear where they feed him the line because he doesn't read the script, apparently. I don't know if this is true. So, like, as he's doing the line, they're feeding him the dialogue, and then he just repeats what he hears.
Yes.
But Mr. Acting Teacher.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to deliver a good performance if you don't know what you're about to say when you read it?
Well,
I'm talking to you now, and this is it. And this is the first time I see something, and I go, Keeping Up with the Man of Steel. What are your comics really worth? I don't know what the emotion is. I don't know. I mean, Brando had to do some preparation.
Well, he did say in that interview on that classic series that he does know what he's supposed to say, but he just doesn't memorize it exactly. So he knows the intention of the scene and what he's trying to say.
So, I mean, does he tell the director he knows what's going on, or he just internalizes that? Does he walk?
I assume he would have had they would have still rehearsed it and everything like that.
Now, why does he do that? Is it because he's too good for acting, or is it
probably great? I think he's probably just a little lazy at that point in his career. He can offer $3 million for a movie, and they'll go, "Yep, okay." And he said he's only going to work for this X amount of days, and that's it.
That's all documented in that documentary.
Pretty much. They say. I mean, he doesn't. They focus on Marlon Brando a little bit in it, and it's quite interesting to see how he works and how they like there's the cue cards as he's walking, and then as he goes off camera, they just hand him a copy of the script, and he just reads the script.
An ultimate aim of sedition. These are matters of undeniable fact.
Although his speeches are quite short, Brando prefers not to memorize them, but to have them written on large cards called cue cards. It's the way he prefers to work.
There's nothing more boring than a director who directs an actor to go to the door and stop and then turn around and say, Martha, goodbye. You know that's going to come. So if you don't know what the words are, but you have a general idea of what they are, then you look at the cue card. It gives you the feeling as the viewer.
And he just reads the script while the camera is on, and things like that. So,
I don't know. I know we're talking about Superman, but I'm just saying, and I'm not calling out Marlon Brando for being a jerk, but I'm just saying when there's that much money at stake and you have all those people literally hanging on your every word because they need to get this thing filmed because they have that Christmas date.
Yep.
And they're up against the clock. To have a guy show up unprepared, baby. I mean, you got Susanna York there playing Lara. You got all these other people waiting for him to do his line. I think it's Trevor Howard.
Yes, you've got Phyllis Thaxter. You got she's
I mean,
you got all these great
actors. Yeah, and they're probably like, why has this guy got a free pass?
Well, I know Trevor Howard and Marlon Brando were old friends. Probably, I think everyone was on that. When you've got an understanding, if you came in going, "What? I had no idea that this was how it was going to work," but I think they all knew that, and everyone was happy with the situation because it was essentially, Marlon Brando who got the film going because it was a big name, attached to it. So, and let's not forget Glenn Ford and everyone else as well. So.
Did Richard Donner have problems with working with Brando? Have you read anything?
Not that I recall.
When I first came on the picture and I heard how much money Marlon Brando was paid for it, I was really upset because I don't think it seemed like much more money than anybody is worth. But then working with him and seeing him on film, to me, he's underpaid.
That's all I'm wondering. No one said, "Wow, what a jerk."
All I know that I did read that Christopher Reeve later on had said that Marlon Brando was somewhat phoning in his performance.
Now was he on set? Oh yeah, they were on set at the Fortress of Solitude. Because I'm like, were they ever working together?
I don't think they. I don't know whether because they just filmed Marlon Brando with black velvet around, and he was a projected head. So I don't know whether Christopher Reeve was on set during.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
But
anyway.
There obviously were problems behind the scenes with the Sorkins. Basically, they were doing two films back to back. They had issues trying to get everything finished. They decided to just film, even though that Richard Donner had filmed 75% of Superman 2. They decided, let's just focus on the first movie to make sure that they get that as a release. So
they only had him for 21 days too. Didn't they have him for 3 weeks or something? Wasn't that part of his contract? They filmed a lot of Superman 2 because Gene Hackman's contract said, "I'm only here for these amount of days." That's why.
Well, I do know that once Richard, essentially the Sorkins, because they had difficulty working with Richard Donner, they fired him. They brought in Richard Lester, who had worked who was in sort of as a mediator between the Sorkins and Donner.
Worked on those Three Musketeer pictures, right?
Yeah, and so they brought him to direct Superman 2, and much to the chagrin of the original cast, but obviously they were under contract. That's why Marlon Brando doesn't appear in Superman 2 because he refused. And that's why
they brought his mom in.
Yeah, so Susanna York is playing those parts, and consequently they used the Marlon Brando bits in Superman Returns.
I remember that was a big
Superman 2.
But Gene Hackman too, didn't they dub his voice for Superman?
Yeah, so he refused to do any reshoots or ADR, but he did approve of a voice actor to re-record those lines.
Yeah. So
but
anyway,
again, that's something I never knew as a as a kid. And when they released the Superman 2, the Donner cut, you know, in the early 2000s, I was sort of going, I don't know if
that was a big controversy with us, because we always wondered. Well, let's wrap up Superman 1 first, because we're only going to be talking about the Christopher Reeve Superman movies and not all the other stuff. So what was your reaction when you saw it as a kid? Because I already told you how I thought it was a little more. So it only got exciting to me. You're right. Once he goes to New York, once he becomes Superman, he meets Lois Lane.
Yes.
Even that song that used to be on the radio, Can You Read My Mind? I remember my mom listening to it, and you can hear her, Margot Kidder, doing the lyrics over the radio. Okay. But that just bugged me. When you're 12 years old, you're not into romance. You're into like action and adventure, you know. But did you see it when the airplane got struck by lightning? Was that in the original cut? Because that's one of those things I've seen years later with extra footage, and I go, I don't remember Force One being in the movie.
So when I saw it, so, you know, year after Star Wars, 8 years old, and I've said, I think on our very first, or maybe it was our collectibles show, you know, what are our favorite collectibles? And I brought in that piece of glow-in-the-dark kryptonite, which when you went to see it at the end, they handed it to you. I fell in love with that movie. I mean, I was a Star Wars kid, but I don't know. I had read probably some of the comics, but I wasn't that a big, you know, a huge comic book reader. I just loved the movie Superman. I saw it many times, and I wasn't bored.
Oh, so you saw it many times in the theater when it first?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I remember we going at Christmas time. We went as a family to see it, and then I went to see it probably maybe at least one more time. I think I saw it 2 more times, and then when they released it in Australia on TV, I know they did in America, but I can't remember. Yeah, it was so long; it was over 2 nights.
Yeah, it was.
And they had
that's where all that extra footage shows up.
Yes. Yeah. Now I can't remember if. I'm pretty sure that in our version was Air Force One, but I can't honestly remember whether that was the TV version or the.
Yeah, I know it becomes a blur, but I remember there's a whole sequence when he goes underground to go after Lex Luthor, where there's like flamethrowers.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that on the TV version. I remember
none of that was in the movie at all. Yeah. It was like that was there. They added that in. And a lot of the scenes where he's saving the folks from the earthquake at the end after the nuclear bomb causes the earthquake, there's like a village and a big rock, and he directs the water, bend steel, change the course of mighty rivers. All that was there. Yeah. But I remember there was like these people that were having a drought, and suddenly there's water, and they're dancing around in the water. I'm like, that wasn't in the movie. I don't remember.
In fact, they did release, and I've been trying to find a copy. The last few years when we were in America, I've been trying to find a copy of. They released the extended version on Blu-ray. Right.
Yeah.
Which
you don't have that?
No, they don't. No, I don't know. I don't know if it's a multi-region disc.
I was gonna say, I think I own that, but I don't know if it'll play in region free.
Yeah. So they have released that. So if you are curious of that film, and you know, it's you know, a 3-hour plus movie.
You don't have to listen to us either. I'm sure on YouTube, if you go around, you'll find it somewhere.
Oh, there's plenty of deleted. So, and you do often get those on the DVD. You get the deleted scenes and everything like that. But I certainly, you know, love Superman the movie, and I couldn't wait till 1980 when Superman 2 came out. 1980.
1981.
Well, it does actually. I have seen I'm still waiting on that. What were you going to get your man thing? Remember that? That was a gift you were going to get me because I confirmed. Remember?
Oh, you mean my giant size man thing?
That's right.
Hold on, man.
Oh no, you do.
You mean?
Are you going to do a Blazing Saddles? Let me just whip this out.
I took off my my Superman boxer shorts.
Oh my gosh.
You just said your man thing. Oh, you're talking about the toy.
Anyway.
Oh, hold on.
Anyway, Superman 2 came out in 1980/1981. And that was, I think that almost, to me, was my favorite Christopher Reeve Superman movie.
Superman 2?
Yeah.
See, I said the same things. I love that movie. I can watch that a million times.
The battle in Metropolis
yes,
was absolutely, I think, absolutely amazing. And the thing that I really love that I feel like, sorry, I'm doing the Harrison Ford.
Yeah, Harrison Ford.
Finger.
That was another show. We did
It
that
was,
one already.
Was that
What?
remember Superman 2? Spider-Man 2, that which is, I suppose, considered to be the best of the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
The opening of that basically showed footage.
Yeah,
from
they intercut his origin through the title sequence.
Okay, and I go, oh my gosh, they're ripping off Superman 2 because that is the best opening sequence to a sequel where it pretty much replays the whole film with that. And you know what we haven't spoke? It's remiss of us not to speak about it.
What?
It's the amazing John Williams score.
Oh, for God's sakes! It goes without saying too. I mean, I hum that all the time. It's like dun 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 dun.
It is.
Did you ever hear John Williams explain that you could actually hear the words?
Hear him go Superman. Yes.
And Richard Donner. It's like dun dun dun, and it's like when he goes to open the shirt, like you hear the dramatic build up to like dun 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 dun, because we can't get sued by YouTube and copyright if we do that. But as Lois is on the helicopter and she's falling from the Daily News or the Daily Planet building.
What a great scene.
And you hear him and he sees it and he sees was there a scarf or a hat that falls to the ground?
Yep.
And he picks it up and he's like, oh, because he's clueless, you know? And then he looks up in the sky and he sees it's her and he runs over and he changes into the.
But remember, there's that first telephone booth where he looks and it's
too short. Yeah, it's the half one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, and of course, there's no phone booths now, so that's a whole other story. And he comes out. I'm gonna say the actor plays the pimp, George Harris. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that the same George Harris that's Captain Katanga?
I haven't made that connection.
I just remember on the credits it says George Harris is in Superman the movie, and you know how they always seem to have the same stable of actors over in England. Hence Ray Hassett, John Ratzenberger. All of these guys pop up.
Who was Prince of Ardentia in Flash Gordon.
William Hook. You see a lot of the same actors because they're the local American folks that are in the city. But then again, that might have been filmed in New York at that point because you were right.
I think that was all done in a studio. That was all in
Oh, that's a studio shot.
because that's reprojected. That sequence.
I know that when he flies up, but even the city, the street.
The street sequence of that is outside, I believe, but a lot of the other the thing with him, I'll put it up underneath whether it is George Harris or not. I don't think it is, but
his name's on the credit. I don't know who George Harris played. Maybe it's a different guy named George Harris, but anyway,
the score. I can't believe I still can't believe that the score didn't get best score at the Academy Awards.
Well, did win that year.
Giorgio Moroder, who funnily did the score for Superman 3, element of it, for Midnight Express.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, Superman 2, I think Superman 2 is the best of all the Superman movies because it's not as boring. It's action from the moment it starts, like you said, with the opening credits, and then we just go right and we see the Krypton criminals get away, Nan and the whole crew, and it just goes nuts. But that movie, ADR problems again, as a kid, was that a boy or a girl in the town of Houston that goes, "Please, mister, don't hurt my daddy"?
That was
Remember?
a boy.
Yeah, was it a boy?
It was.
Again, I'm not getting into like boy or girl. I just said, as a kid, I thought it was a little girl, but then somebody said it was a boy. And then there's a really weird cut sequence from the movie where General Zod kills that kid.
Yeah, because
he's on the horse and he's riding off to go get the authorities or something.
He
throws a pipe or whatever, and it just like goes.
Yeah, and then Ursa says, he was someone says, he was just. Was it Lois?
Just a boy.
It was just a boy, and then Ursa says, "Who will never grow up to be a man." So there you go.
Okay, but that's because the sequel or that was that in the Donner cut. They showed the rest of that scene because as a kid, I'm like, "What is this?" Like, "Please, mister, don't hurt my daddy." the voice did not.
Was he
match up
Oliver
with the-
Twist? Is that who it was?
Add more, sir. But there was that dubbing problem, and then I'm gonna say Richard Lester did a lot of this stuff, and I say this because it comes back later on in the Avengers Age of Ultron movie. They throw in these little, what do you want to call them? These little voice gags or something. They're like, "Hey, buddy," drives me up a wall because they go to that little backwards town of Houston, Texas. And you got the sheriff, kind of reminded you of Jackie Gleason from the Smoking the Bandit pictures, you know? And it's like, well, you can have fish, you know that. And, oh, look, I bet they're from New York when you see the criminals there.
Yeah.
And they wreck the guy's car. Or the
Non picks up the flashing light.
Yeah. But it's not that. But they have like a townsperson come up to the wounded victim or whatever and goes, "You all right, buddy?" And there's like these little bits of dialogue that they just kind of throw in there maybe to lighten the scene so it's not so dire when the audience is like, "Oh my God, he just killed those soldiers." And you know when he takes the flamethrower and General Zod blows it and you see it burn and the guys are running and screaming, and then let's throw a little joke in there now because we want to lighten it up that they didn't just burn 3 guys to death or something.
Wow.
You know? It's a little disjointed because you're trying to get how villainous they are. And another one that's bothered me is the astronauts on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
When he's wrecking the lunar capsule, that thing looks there was not $1 million in that budget. It looked like a bunch of tinfoil or aluminum foil. That was a bad effect. Come on now.
I don't think it didn't seem bad. But most of those Apollo things
think
were
that was bad?
No, because they were all tin foil. You know, the gold foil on the bottom and everything like that.
It looked like I made it in my backyard with pipe cleaners as a kid. I was like, come on, man. Come on.
I thought it was, I didn't mind.
I'll tell you what, Sarah Douglas, who I thought about bringing to my show. In fact, I was going to bring her, Jack Halloran, Mark McClure, I think Jeffrey East, or the little boy. He's got a Russian sounding name that played the little baby that comes out of the capsule, Baby Superman. And the late Margot Kidder, I was going to book them for a part of the 40th anniversary, but another show had exclusivity nonsense on them. And then, you know what's so funny? The other show never even used them. They didn't even, you can't have those actors for Terrificon because I already have them booked. And here's one of my little gripes with this business.
Yeah.
This jerk, and that's what he is, a complete jerk, never used the actors but locked them into a contract so they couldn't come to my show. So he missed the 40th anniversary thing in 2018. I wanted to have them because I was a fan of the movies. They never did it, and Margot Kidder passed away that spring.
Yeah.
So I'm like, great. Well, we'll never have that again. But I wanted to bring those guys together because not only was it a terrific fight scene, but they filmed a bunch of stuff that you never saw when they got to the Fortress of Solitude for the fight they had in Superman 2. Like when he takes that silly S and throws it and it makes it like a big rap thing. And then, come on now, that didn't bug you? Or you just went with it?
I just went with it. It's Superman. That didn't bother me really at all. You know what I do laugh about? And I know that people, again, we're not talking about the other Superman movies or anything like that.
We'll get those real quick. But okay, what about Superman?
But I just wanted to say that, you know, in Man of Steel with Henry Cavill, and people go, he killed Zod. He killed Zod. In Superman 2, he kills him and throws him down
No. See, okay, go ahead. Tell me what you think.
And no one batted an eyelid. But if Zack Snyder's involved, people go. So
I thought he killed them all.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
I did. I have my Superman program. I thought he killed them all. They fell into the crevice there at the Fortress of Solitude, disappeared into a cloud of smoke. Who knows how deep that was? Maybe they froze to death. They died. They froze under the water. Whatever. My friend Jerry Ordway, the Superman artist who worked on a bunch of Superman things like, Death of Superman. Where is it? It's up here somewhere. But he told me, where is it? There it is, Death of Superman.
Yep.
That there was an ongoing debate between John Byrne, who also came out and did the Man of Steel comic book, that they believed that Superman didn't kill the villains. He captured them. It wasn't until there was a deleted scene shown on the television version of Superman 2, which is later in the extended Richard Donner cut, where they have the Arctic police or something show up and take them away in like a little cage. Did you ever see that?
No, I have no knowledge of that.
And then there's even a scene of Superman flying with like a cage of criminals, like a crate, like a prison.
No, I mean, obviously he had
never
Otis
saw
and,
this.
no, he had Otis
Really?
and Lex, you know, and dropping them into the prison, but
No, but there's another a scene that's filmed where he makes like a prison and you see the 3 criminals inside of it. So he never did kill them. But that's the thing. When you go to a movie and you buy a ticket, whatever's on that screen is the movie you saw. I don't care about deleted scenes. I don't care about extended director's cuts. Whatever I paid my $10 to see, that's the movie that's in my head.
Yeah.
That's the one they released.
Yeah.
But apparently he did not kill the villains in Superman 2.
I think
so. The debate rages.
Anyway,
Superman
Superman 2, an amazing
2
film.
was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then we go bad.
Well,
then,
look.
Well, come on.
All I'm going to say is Superman 3, it was, I remember hearing that Richard Pryor, he was on a talk show or something like that.
He was on the Johnny Carson show, which was like the biggest show out here.
And basically said, I'd love to be in Superman or something like that. And then, you know.
I watched it. He came out raving about Superman 2, which he was right to do because it was a good movie. And he's telling Johnny Carson the whole movie. He's like, oh, and then Superman did this, and then they're in New York, and then they're fighting, and then he took that, and he's acting out the whole movie. I mean, God knows what, he was bouncing off the wall on something that night. Johnny Carson's dying, and he goes, oh, I love Superman. I want to be in a Superman movie so bad. So basically that was his audition right there on the Johnny Carson show. And that was the #1 talk show. You can't not see it. Everybody was talking about it. So the next day, the Saucklins picked up the phone. Hello, book Superman 3, get Richard Pryor. Because at the time, Richard Pryor was one of the biggest box office hits in the world.
Yep.
And it made sense. But you know what happens in that movie? You don't have a good villain. You have Robert Vaughn.
I like Robert Vaughn.
I like him as an actor, but I don't think he was serviceable in that part in the movie.
Well, I think the problem with Superman 3 is there's some good sequences in there. I think the end sequence with the robot and how
the sister.
Sorry,
that was his sister that becomes like a robot.
Yeah,
thing?
I thought that
was scary, man.
Yeah, and the effects were really good. The electricity effects and things like that. I like the Atari sort of tie-in.
Oh yeah, the video game. I had that video game. I went out and bought that when he's like going up and down. And choo, 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 choo.
All those sort of things. I thought there were good elements of it. And I thought the use of creating an evil Superman.
That's a great part of the movie. But I'm going to ask you a question about that.
Yeah.
I showed that to my kids when we were little. On New Year's Eve, we would always pick a movie.
Yeah.
And I said, guys, we're going to see Superman 3.
Yep.
Because when I was a kid, I couldn't wait to see Superman 3 because they showed the dark Superman.
Yeah.
So they have that fight where he's evil, he's downtrodden, he's drinking at a bar, he's taking the peanuts and shooting them like bullets at people, you know? They beat each other up in the junkyard.
Yes.
Good Superman comes back. He takes bad Superman, puts him in the, or Clark Kent, puts him in the conveyor belt, and he gets crushed. And he's back, right? My little boy, Owen, who at the time must have been 8 or 9, looks right at me and goes, is he really fighting somebody there, or is that just all in his head? And I stopped and I went, I don't think he really is fighting anybody. There's no duplicate there. That's all in his mind. What do you think?
I think it's sort of, I mean, it's again, you know, like a bit of a metaphor, like, you know, those deeper levels, you know, you're the inner conflict, you know, fighting oneself. So I sort of think it's a physical representation of him battling his inner demons.
So if one was standing in that Metropolis junkyard at the time, they would have saw Superman basically having a fit.
It could be, or maybe he was not even doing any of that. It was all just, you know, that was how it was playing out in his mind. Yeah.
Now, now this is the problem. You shouldn't have to think this deeply about a Superman 3 movie where Gus Gorham or whatever is rounding out the dollars on checks to make his fortune, up, you know, rolling up the couple pennies and stealing them and putting them in his bank account. That was his evil plan.
Yeah.
To become a millionaire.
Well,
but I'll give you this though. Lana Lang played by actress Annette O'Toole.
Yes.
Fantastic, beautiful young actress in the film. The jerk, who was, wasn't he the bad Richie Cunningham?
Yes, we've had this conversation. Yep.
Yeah. He's the, I can't remember what his name was. He was like this real,
as well.
He's a jerk. He's beating up kids and he's rude to women and, you know.
And I was grossed out by that contact lens of his.
No, he was supposed to be was he supposed to be the football player from Superman 1 that like knocked over all the sports equipment?
Yeah, but he was also, yeah.
It was like the local town hero bullies thing, whatever. Yep. So he was a jerk. So that part I liked. I liked the Smallville stuff. I can't remember the little boy's name. That was her son.
Jimmy.
Yeah. Hey, Jimmy.
I don't know.
But but that movie opened up the same year as Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Which I went to go see, a bunch of times. And I saw Superman 3 once and didn't want to talk about it again. So how many times did you see that one? We could talk about how good the movies were by how many times you saw it.
I think I saw it once, definitely, probably twice.
Yeah. Just to make sure it wasn't bad.
My problem with it was that it was a Superman was in a Richard Pryor movie.
Oh, so he was a co-star in his own movie.
That's what I felt.
Kind of like Batman Returns, when Batman's basically backup and it's the Penguin and Catwoman's movie, and he just shows up. You're like, why is he even in this movie?
Yeah, so that's what I felt. And I felt the focus was too much on
Richard Pryor.
And because I didn't dislike Richard Pryor, but as a 13-year-old kid, I hadn't seen a lot of his films. So
that was Richard Pryor post fire, when he got burned up on his body, and he was trying to reinvent his image because he started doing movies like The Toy with Jackie Gleason.
Was it Brewster's Millions he did?
Brewster's Millions with John Candy. He was trying to be more lighthearted, more family friendly, as opposed to that raunchy, rated R, vulgar comedian. He was like, he saw the light, no pun intended. Yeah. And he was trying to change his image. I think that's what the whole idea was. And it's a very uneven movie.
Yeah.
For the reasons we listed, the comedy doesn't work. The villains, I think, are kind of lame. Yeah. And the Superman metaphor stuff is just over the top. Now,
are you talking about the Quest for Peace?
Ed, there's only one place to go now. Now this, Ed, I'm going to tell you, I mentioned Jerry Ordway earlier, and we've talked about this on our podcast, the Power Cosmic Podcast. Listen to it on iTunes. Jerry tells me, and again, John Byrne's involved with this, because John Byrne was this guy who wrote Superman comics, very famous X-Men, Marvel comics artist and writer. He had a chance to write a screenplay for Superman 4. It becomes a story called The Earth Stealers. They made a comic book out of it. They didn't use it for the motion picture. But Jerry said when he got the script to draw it, that you would see on it Superman 4 stamps or whatever, like copyright, for your eyes only. So there was an attempt to take this script. So if you've never read it, you can go out and find it. This was supposed to be Superman 4. They don't use that. They make this movie, which is bizarre because they get back Gene Hackman.
Yes.
They get Margot Kidder to show up after she walked off for Superman 3.
Yes.
And that's Jerry Ordway calling right now.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. I know you're talking about me. My ears are burning.
That's right. That's his superpower.
But the thing of it is, that movie is a mess. But Jerry tells me there's a longer version. There's like a 3-hour version of all these scenes that they showed and that they didn't show that saved this movie. I don't care if there's a 20-hour miniseries. The effects are so bad in this movie. When he points his finger at the Great Wall of China and he puts it together, I don't even know where Superman had that power before. Okay?
All right.
I didn't see this in the movie theaters. That's how bad it was. I'm not going to see it. It wasn't a Warner Brother release. It was Gorham Globus.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
it was horrible.
Yeah. So essentially, it came out in 1987. It had a limited budget. They brought back John Williams. They had.
Did they bring back John Williams?
I'm pretty sure they had. I think they had themes by John Williams. So they brought back, to some capacity, they brought back John Williams. The story was by Christopher Reeve.
That's true.
About nuclear disarmament. And I think the overall, I think the concept is quite good. Lex Luthor gets a piece of Superman's hair to create Nuclear Man. This super
horrible.
In theory, the story is quite interesting and of its time. They had John Cryer, who's now playing Lex.
Now he's a big deal, but at the time he was the guy from 16 Candles.
Yes. And it's very, I suppose, look, Superman and Superman 2 are very 70s films.
This is an 80s movie.
This is a real 80s movie with he was Lenny.
Lex, Lenny
Lex's uncle was his uncle. It had Mariel Hemingway.
Yeah.
I actually like. There's a sequence in Superman 4 that I quite like, which is a bit of the screwball comedy of them in the apartment, and it's Superman flying in.
I'll give you that. Well, she's in love with Clark as opposed to Superman.
Yes, and there was
the whole flip of the whole Lois.
Yeah, so there was some elements in it that were quite good.
But when Lex Luthor takes a little tiny suit and puts it in the thing and shoots it into the sun, and a Nuclear Man comes out, and then he takes Mariel Hemingway and flies her up into space.
Yes,
she should be dead for God's sake.
Okay, it has some issues, and one of the problems was that the budget. Well,
they took the money. Yeah, and they put it into Masters of the Universe, the He-Man movie.
Yeah,
that's what I heard. That's why the budget for this gets screwed over, because they were banking on He-Man being the big hit.
Which
that's what I heard.
Unfortunately, so that's why some of the visual effects were subpar. Well, a lot of the visual effects. The best visual effect in it is the end sequence, which they use for all the Christopher Reeve movies, which is from Superman the movie, of him flying.
The Earth,
space, and everything like
that.
No.
Do you know the UNEN? You know the UNEN. When they do all that. The United Nations. It's not even in New York. It's over in England, because I watched a show on YouTube where the guy goes to all the filming sets. It's a freaking library somewhere up in Shepperton, England, or something.
I know. And when we were in when we went to the United Nations, I was going, that's where Superman spoke about nuclear disarmament.
In the Grand Assembly building there?
Yeah, with that matte painting. And look, which is funny, because I think Harrison Ellenshaw was the visual effects supervisor on it. By all accounts, it had...
I heard his wig was even bad. Superman wore a wig.
Anyway.
He did.
It's bad,
It's
not great. It isn't great.
Mine. Look at this. This is pure... That's
amazing what yak hair can do. Anyway, all right.
It's bad. It's a
can I show you?
We're done with Superman.
Can I show you some Superman collectibles? Because
before you go, what is Christopher Reeve's next go at being in a Superman thing? I know we weren't going to talk about TV
Smallville.
Smallville. He plays Professor Swan, which is a nod to Kurt Swan, who was the Superman artist for 30 years. Or 40 maybe. That's why he gets that name. That's his last time he appears in a Superman-based thing.
And Smallville, and I've got to say the DC TV shows are great in showcasing past DC actors. How you've got Helen Slater, who
Margot Kidder was in there.
Yes, even
Dean Cain. They were on the Supergirl show.
Yeah, so that's really good. So
I was going to tell you, I met Christopher Reeve twice.
What?
Yes, you didn't know that?
No.
The same dinner party that I met Harrison Ford at, though it wasn't the same year. I went back, and it was Michael. Oh, I can tell you this another story. It's Michael J. Fox, Jessica. What's the girl's? Julie Louis-Dreyfus, Chevy Chase, and I get in a fight in the bathroom. I didn't tell you all these stories. Anyway, Mitch's Adventures. Anyway, there's a large wheelchair in front of me, and there was a bald gentleman there, and I'm behind it. But this is why the wig thing comes up. This is after Christopher Reeve's accident.
Yep.
I didn't realize it was him. Because you picture Superman with hair. The medication that Christopher Reeve was on for his accident caused him to lose all the hair follicles, so he had no eyebrows or anything. So I walked in front to go look for my friend Joe, and I turned, and there's Christopher Reeve right there it wasn't just an ordinary wheelchair; it had a respirator attached to it and everything there. So he was at this Riverkeeper thing, and his young son was there at the time, and I was like, "Oh my!" And his beautiful wife,
Dana.
Dana, she was right by his side. She was a singer. She sang a song that day. She got up on stage and sang. gorgeous woman. She was a lounge singer or a Broadway cabaret singer, something like that. So she was great. And then I'm like, oh, this is great. And I have the program. He came to New Haven to speak at my college, an evening with Christopher Reeve and Dana Reeve. And they brought him on stage, and he did his whole talk about, you know, what happened to the accident and then what happened with his career. And he did a Q&A for everybody there. And I remember there was a gentleman in the audience who actually had like a mini attack, like a heart problem. And he fell during the presentation. He got up and tripped, and everybody in the audience was like in shock and everything. And Christopher Reeve, here he is on stage, and he's, you know, he's paralyzed. He's, you know, on the wheelchair, he can't move, but he calms the whole audience down. He's like, everybody, please return to your seat. And the ushers will come in and we'll see to this gentleman. And they came in and they got him, and the paramedics came in, and the man had a reaction to it was a very warm day, and he had like a heat stroke type of thing, but he was okay. But I love the fact that here he was on stage. He's no longer, you know, Superman, but he still has a commanding presence. Everybody sat down and listened to what Superman had to say, and they all followed his instructions. And then he came in and goes, I just heard from the paramedic that the gentleman was just diabetic, and he didn't have enough fluids, and he's going to be okay. And everybody clapped and everything like that. But at the end of the evening, and I'm going to get choked up here, they had brought in a bunch of children to sit in the front rows, and these were children that had certain disabilities, or they couldn't walk, or you know, something was wrong, and they were hoping to get better, or they were in treatment or something like that. And he stands there on stage, and he tells all of them, listen, they told me I would never be able to walk again. They told me I wouldn't live. They told me this and that. And, you know, I'm doing all this research, and I'm doing all these treatments, and I can slowly start to move my fingers and stuff on this hand. And they told me that would never happen. And if they tell you you're not going to walk or anything, don't listen to them. Just listen to yourself and listen to your heart. And if you really believe that you could do something, there's nothing in this world that could ever stop you from doing it. So just believe in yourself. Oh my God, I'm telling you, people were bawling from just listening to Christopher Reeve, because God bless the man. Even in that situation towards the end of his life, he really never gave up being a genuine Superman. I mean, he just had like I said, a commanding presence. You listen to him, and you know, he, even in that time, he wasn't, you know, Superman I saw on the screen, but to me, he still was just as powerful as anything he did when he was in his early 20s or whatever it was when he played Superman on the big movies. But yeah, that's why I met Superman twice. And I have a photo with him, and I have the program still from that evening, an evening with Christopher Reeve.
Wow.
And yeah, they were selling his book. It was called Still Me.
Yes, I do have that.
And, yeah, and then unfortunately his wife Dana passed away like only a year after he did.
Yes.
From, of all things, lung cancer or something. But it was a shame, because I think she was only in her late 30s too. But very, very lovely couple. But anyway, that's my Christopher Reeve story. I did meet him twice, and he was a fantastic actor. And nobody touches Superman. He owns it. Like you mentioned, Chris Evans is Captain America. I can't imagine anybody ever taking over that role of Superman and topping Christopher Reeve's performance.
No, I do think. Look, Brandon Routh was very good as
imitating.
Yes,
Reeve,
yes, you know? but yeah, no one can hold a candle to.
Brandon Routh did a good job. Did you watch the Crisis thing?
I did, and I
thought he actually did a very good job of pulling off that character that never gives up. And you see where he gets up, where they're losing this big multiple Earths coming together, and he dusts himself off, and he talks to the Lois that's there, and she's like, "Where are you going?" He's like, "Well, you know, it's like I got to go to work now," and he just goes back into the portal to go fight some more. I mean, that was a great performance. And I'm going to give you a little bit of information here. Whenever this pandemic ends, there's a CW Superman show coming in, and from what I've heard from people I've met at conventions and people that work on these shows, and I'm not going to mention names, he's coming back as Superman, but from that version of that Earth or whatever. So it's that Christopher Reeve world. So as long as we can get this COVID under control and they can go back to making TV and movies, Brandon Routh is coming back as Superman. At least it was 6 months ago. I hope it's still happening. So we'll have to wait and see.
Oh, well, that'll
but
be
anyway,
great.
let's talk about merchandise. What do you got?
So it's funny. There wasn't. There obviously Superman, huge movie, but there wasn't a lot of merchandise. Mego had the rights to Superman at the time, so they brought out. They had the 12-inch version.
Yeah, they did a 12-inch one too.
So they did a Christopher Reeve style version of Superman. I never got that, unfortunately.
You know what? No, you're wrong. There was a Superman toy because I had it, and it was you couldn't pose him. He was in one position, and he had like a kryptonite rock with him. Or something.
I've got that. And it came with a ring, and you'd plug him in, and his eyes would light up as well. But that wasn't really Superman,
it wasn't
the movie. No, that was
Ideal Corporation. Remco. Yeah. I think it was called the Energized Superman or something.
Yeah, they did a Spider-Man as well. But it was not really, it wasn't really Christopher Reeve. There was a few things. I got this day one as well. This is my favorite.
They gave you a pin too?
No, I bought that one at when badges were all the rage. They because of usually you get a movie tie-in novelization, but because the script was originally written by Mario Puzo, he wouldn't. They didn't do a bit. So they came out.
Yeah, it's called.
So they came out. So they did two. They did Last Son of Krypton
by Elliot Maggin, right?
Yep.
Yeah. You know what the S stands for in Elliot S. Maggin?
Superman.
Yep. He was coming to Terrificon.
Oh, there you go. And then they did this sort of ties in with Superman 2, even though it's not a Superman.
Yeah, Miracle Monday. Yep, I have that. And that's the same cover I have. We have the same book there.
Yep. And that's actually got like images from Superman 2 in there. Yep. I just got this recently on.
We have the programs. We showed that before. I didn't bring mine on the show.
That's
today,
right.
Did you get one for Superman the movie? Because I only got one for Superman 2.
I never got that one. This is an Australian movie poster from Superman.
Oh, wow.
So hang on, I'll just go back.
Oh, yeah, and you showed us the date. Yes, you told me that.
So, which I'm trying. It's like butcher's paper. It's very delicate. So I'm going to try and get that framed. This one, this is my.
It's a thermos.
Yes.
Yeah. I think there was a lunchbox.
There is. I'm on the lookout for that. So that's
all right. Well, there's those glasses I got you at Philadelphia Comic-Con a couple years. I never knew they existed till I was in the comic book convention, and a guy had a whole set. I think there was 7 of them. Maybe,
yeah, I'll put a photo up of them. They are in. So Mitch, I'm so appreciative of that gift. They look like you, and I've said this before, like you reached
Star Wars ones.
And it's like you reached back into 1978 and pulled them out. They look brand new,
fresh.
They are in. Yeah, they are in our cabinet in our lounge room.
Really? You have a curio cabinet?
Yeah. So, but they're lit. They're in the cabinet. They're where all our fine china and everything is. That's how I revere those things.
Those are from
because
Krypton,
of course there's also this what happened.
Ed Dollister helped save Metropolis.
This is from Warner Brothers Movie World, but I like this. It says, after a daring escape from the state penitentiary, Superman's arch enemy, Lex Luthor, was foiled by Ed Dollister as he attempted to destroy the Gateway Bridge. And it was Clark Kent's rostered day off. It was up to innocent bystander Ed to save the day.
Mr. Superman.
This is what I did. Hold on. He apparently noticed Lex acting suspiciously and called in the police academy of cadets. So that's pretty much it. Oh no, Mitch has walked out.
No. Marvel also has something like that. The Daily Bugle, Tourist Save City. There's me, there's Spencer and Owen, and there's the web crawler. Spider-Man.
And is that Nicholas Hammond?
No, it's not Nicholas Hammond. Nicholas Hammond, who was also coming to Terrificon this year. Thanks, COVID. He's actually right near you in Australia.
He is.
But he lives over there, yeah.
So a few other things. This one from Superman 3. Superman 3, which to my sister, which I...
You know what? Did you get trading cards? Look. I am How are you, Ed?
Yep,
This is
I'm
me.
well.
I didn't read the dialogue. Look at that. Superman
The projection of
of
Jor-El.
Jor-El.
I
That costs
actually,
$30 million to hold this up right now.
I've only got the Superman 2 set. I've got.
Oh, okay. I remember getting these after the movie came out, 1978. The thing of it is, there was a contest in the DC comic books. You could win a part in the Superman movie, and you had to go through the comic books and collect the letters. Each book would have like an S, a U, a P, an E, an R, an MAN, and you had to like assemble certain words like Clark Kent, Superman, Metropolis, and you would send them in. You ruined the comic book by cutting it up. And then you sent it into DC Comics, and they pulled a winner. And I did hear that those two kids do show up in the movie. I'm going to say they're in the high school Smallville scene on the field.
Yep.
You know, when he's putting all the equipment away?
Yes.
Yeah, I think they're there. They're in the background. But those two kids did win a contest to be in the Superman movie. So it wasn't you, though, Ed.
No, it wasn't. There was some other things as well. These are the let's see, that's my Super 8 film, Super 8 the movie.
Oh, you have that too? Yeah.
Yeah. I've got.
You get that movie poster right behind you. Is that an original?
Yeah, it's a Mylar version, which is quite.
Oh, it's
good.
Mylar?
Yeah, it's the glittery, which is quite good. Yeah.
Oh, cool! I can tell it's shiny. Yeah.
I've got my Viewmaster Superman.
Oh, yeah, Viewmasters. I remember that. Yeah.
Which is quite good. They brought this. I bought yesterday, because I don't have any Superman 4 merchandise.
They made a Superman, the movie version of this. I always hold these up, these big treasury books.
Oh, yes.
But, it's like a big size comic. That shop I showed you a couple weeks ago where the proprietor passed away, that was hanging up in his store. So,
oh, wow.
If you don't have that, you got to be on the hunt for that.
I will. So this is.
What is that, Ed?
It's the storybook for Superman 4.
Oh, it's for Superman 4.
Yeah. That's the only Superman 4 merchandise I have.
You know why they rushed
$8 I paid for that.
No, that was his 50th anniversary that year.
It was indeed.
That's why they were trying to get it out.
And of late, they've obviously brought out some new Superman
action figures.
Yep. So there's the 6-inch version.
That's the NECA one.
Yep.
Yep. And then there's that nice one behind you. Is that a Sideshow collectible one? We've talked about that.
That's NECA as well. So he's quite.
Is that posable, or is that just like in that one?
No, you can.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. There's the fantastic Hot Toys Superman, which is amazing.
Do you have that?
No, and it's worth
really
so much money now. It's ridiculous. And the last thing really is the Hallmark have been bringing out some Superman the movie, and there's Christopher Reeve.
Last year, yeah.
Yeah, so.
And it plays not too much. We don't want to get a copyright infringement.
That's right.
That's about it.
So that's it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, here, I don't really have anything from the movies. I mean, this is something, like I mentioned earlier, Jerry Ordway worked on the Death of Superman story and the Return of Superman. So what I do at the show is I get all the artists who worked on the book and the writers to sign this. So I have all their autographs.
That's great.
And the only bit that we had, I'm going to say this came out with the Man of Steel movie.
Yes.
With Henry Cavill. And I use this, I don't want to show off, Ed, but, I have to now and then being, a superstar here. And see, it says USA Steel, but when it strikes me, I just kind of go. Yeah, I didn't want to show off, Ed, but I could bend steel on my bare hands.
I didn't know you were bionic.
Yeah, that's what we'll do. And then I got this little thing the other day. It's the Day of Doom. It's killing it because of the green screen. But anyway, it's a pin set of Superman and fighting Doomsday, and they kind of go back and forth. And then the other thing is, we talked about it. We're not going to go into the other movies, but there was a whole thing about the making of Superman Lives, which was supposed to star Tim Burton or
Nicolas Cage.
And Nicolas Cage. A guy from my hometown here in West Haven, he's no longer with us, named John. I can't think of his name right now. He used to work for Collider, and he is from my hometown of West Haven. He made a fantastic documentary called Superman Lives, and he interviews Tim Burton, Kevin Smith, I think John Peters, Nicolas Cage, and it's all about the movie that was going to be, that never happened. And then the movie that did come out afterwards was the Bryan Singer movie, Superman Returns, which was a sequel to the Christopher Reeve movies. And then, like you mentioned, Henry Cavill's back as the Man of Steel and Batman and Superman. But that's really Superman's legacy, other than Brendan Ralph. And it is what it is.
That's
and
right.
When's the last time you saw it on the big screen?
Probably about 3 years ago, when Margot Kidder was going to appear at the screening. Unfortunately, she fell ill, so I did manage to get a signed picture from her, but that was in 70 millimeter, and that was great. And we were talking about, they just recently last year released it on 4K.
Yeah, so I saw that. Yeah.
So if you've got a 4K screen, it looks beautiful. That's probably the best way to watch it. And who knows, we've got DC Fandom coming up in the next couple of days, where they've got a lot of talk about the new DC films. I know they're talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League. They're going to be talking about, hopefully, Man of Steel 2, and certainly talking about Superman in general, which will be interesting to see. But that's our look back at Superman the movie. Go watch it. It is wonderful. Even Superman 4, it's worth it. Thank you again, Mitch, for talking all things pop culture. Remember, if you enjoy the show, please subscribe to the show. Tell your friends. But that's it for now. It's time to head to our own fortress of solitude. This is Ed Dollister.
This is Mitch Halleck.
And you've been watching Mitch and Ed's Excellent Adventure. It's been real swell. See ya.